My name is Amber Childcare, 29 years old and the perpetual family doormat. 3 days before Christmas, I was unpacking at my parents' Connecticut home when voices from the kitchen caught my attention. Operation Amber Childcare is a go, my sister Jessica whispered. She has no idea we're dumping all 9 kids on her for Christmas. The detailed babysitting schedule they'd planned without my knowledge made my blood boil. After years of being volunteered for family childcare, I'd finally had enough. This Christmas was about to change dramatically. Before I dive into what happened next, take a second to hit that subscribe button and let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Trust me, if you've ever felt taken advantage of by family, you're going to want to stick around for this holiday rebellion. To understand why overhearing this, Operation Amber Childcare, hit me so hard, you need to know a bit about my family dynamics. I'm the oldest of 4 siblings, raised in suburban Connecticut by my parents, Richard and Diane Childcare. Being the firstborn came with the unspoken expectation that I would be the responsible one, the caretaker, the eternal babysitter. This wasn't just occasional help, it was my designated family role. From age 13, I was volunteered to wash my younger siblings without anyone bothering to ask if I had other plans. Amber will babysit became the automatic response whenever my parents wanted a night out. As my siblings Jessica 27, Tyler 25, and Madison 23 grew up and started their own families, the expectation simply transferred to their children. The assumption that my time was less valuable than everyone else's never changed. All 3 of my siblings married young and had children quickly. Jessica has 3 kids, Emma 12, Noah 10, and Lily 7. Tyler has 2, twins Jack and Ava, both 5. Madison has the youngest, twins Harper and Logan 3 and baby Sophia 1. That's 9 nieces and nephews that I love dearly, but caring for all of them simultaneously is like running a chaotic daycare without pay or preparation. My parents never discouraged this pattern. In fact, they reinforced it at every opportunity. Amber doesn't mind, my mother would say, without consulting me. She's so good with the kids, my father would add, as though this skill obligated me to use it whenever convenient for everyone else. Any attempt to establish boundaries was met with guilt trips about family obligation and accusations of selfishness. Meanwhile, I'd been building my career through years of hard work and sacrifice. After putting myself through college and business school, I had finally landed an executive position at a prestigious marketing firm in Boston. The job required long and total dedication, but I loved it. The recognition and respect I received professionally stood in stark contrast to how my family treated me. Last Christmas perfectly illustrated the problem. I had driven 4 hours through a snowstorm to arrive at my parents' house, arms laden with carefully selected gifts and homemade desserts. Within an hour of my arrival, all my siblings had disappeared to run last-minute errands, leaving their children in my care. I ended up missing the entire Christmas dinner because I was upstairs dealing with a diaper blowout and 2 simultaneous temper tantrums. By the time I made it downstairs, the family was finishing dessert. My mother had set aside a cold plate for me, which I ate alone in the kitchen while cleaning up everyone else's dishes. Despite my professional success, holidays with my family left me feeling diminished and lonely. I craved their respect and acknowledgement that my time and plans mattered too. Each year, I promised myself I would establish better boundaries, but family patterns are difficult to break. This year had been particularly challenging at work. I'd led a major campaign that increased our clients' revenue by 40%, resulting in a substantial year-end bonus and promises of a promotion in the new year. I deserved to celebrate and relax during the holidays. I had spent thousands of dollars on thoughtful gifts, prepared 3 signature dishes for Christmas dinner, and even taken 3 extra days off to fully engage in family festivities. When I arrived at my parents' colonial-style home, everything seemed normal at first. Mom hugged me tightly in the doorway decorated with twinkling lights and evergreen garland. Dad took my suitcase with a warm smile. "Our successful daughter is home," he announced proudly, a statement that once would have filled me with warmth. Madison's twins immediately attached themselves to my legs, their sticky hands grabbing at my work slack. Jessica called out from the living room, "Thank God you're here, Amber. We've been waiting." Those words now took on an entirely different meaning after what I overheard in the kitchen. They weren't waiting for me because they missed me. They were waiting for their childcare service to arrive. After settling into my childhood bedroom, still decorated with high school memorabilia and faded posters, I headed downstairs to help with dinner preparations. That's when I heard the hushed voices coming from the kitchen. I paused in the hallway, just out of sight, as my sister Jessica's authoritative tone caught my attention. "Okay, so Operation Amber Childcare is set," Jessica was saying, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Mom and Dad already agreed to let her sleep in the basement playroom so she can keep an eye on all the kids overnight on Christmas Eve." I froze, my hand gripping the hallway banister. The basement playroom was essentially a glorified daycare center my parents had set up for the grandchildren. It had pull-out couches but was primarily filled with noisy toys and games. Not exactly the restful Christmas Eve I had envisioned. "She has no life anyway," my brother Tyler laughed. "All she does is work. She probably appreciates having something else to do during the holidays." That stung. The fact that I prioritized my career didn't mean I had no life. It certainly didn't mean I wanted to spend my precious time off work being an unpaid nanny. "I'll drop off the twins first thing Christmas morning," Madison chimed in. "Once they're there, everyone else can follow. You know Amber can't say no once she's already washing some of the kids. It sets the precedent." My youngest sister's calculated approach shocked me. They weren't just taking advantage of me, they were strategizing about it. "What about Christmas dinner?" my mother asked. "Last year she missed most of it dealing with the children." There was a pause before my father responded, "We can fix her a plate for later. The important thing is that the adults get to enjoy a peaceful meal for once." The adults. As if I wasn't an adult with the same right to a peaceful Christmas dinner as everyone else. Jessica continued outlining her plan with military precision. "So here's the schedule. Christmas Eve, we drop off the first wave of kids at 6 p.m., claiming we need to finish wrapping presents. Christmas morning, we all bring the rest of the kids by 8 a.m., saying we need to prep food and set up. That gives us the entire day kid-free." "What about the party?" Tyler asked. My heart sank further. "What party? That's the best part," Jessica replied excitedly. "Since Amber will have all the kids downstairs, we can have an adults-only Christmas party upstairs. I've already invited the neighbors and some friends. It'll be like the old days before we all had children." They were planning a party in the same house where I would be corralling 9 children, and they hadn't even considered inviting me. "Won't she hear the music and laughter?" my mother asked, a hint of concern in her voice. "The basement is pretty soundproof," my father assured her. "And we'll tell her we're just having a small gathering. She probably won't mind anyway." Amber loves helping out. As they continued discussing their plan, I learned more about the specific childcare duties they expected of me. Jessica's oldest, Emma, was going through a difficult preteen phase and needed someone to talk to about her social anxiety. Noah had recently started acting out at school and required extra attention. Lily still had occasional bedwetting issues that needed discreet handling. Tyler's twins Jack and Ava were in a phase of constant sibling rivalry that resulted in leaf fights. Madison's toddler twins were in the midst of potty training with frequent accidents, and baby Sophie was teething and waking up crying every few hours during the night. In essence, they weren't just expecting me to wash the children. They were dumping all their most challenging parenting moments onto me during what should have been a joyful holiday. The realization that this had been happening for years as a calculated strategy, not coincidental bad timing, made me feel physically ill. The casual way they discussed manipulating me, the laughter as they anticipated their kid-free Christmas, the complete disregard for my feelings or plans, it was overwhelming. I backed away from the kitchen doorway, careful not to make a sound. My heart was pounding, and I could feel heat rising to my face. The initial shock gave way to profound hurt, then simmering anger. I had 2 choices: confront them immediately and face the inevitable guilt trip and emotional manipulation, or find another way to take control of the situation. As I quietly climbed the stairs back to my bedroom, I made my decision. This Christmas was going to be different. For the first time in my adult life, I was going to prioritize my own happiness during the holidays. If my family had an elaborate plan for using me, then I needed an even better plan for myself. Back in my childhood bedroom, I closed the door quietly and sat on the edge of the twin bed, still adorned with the floral comforter I'd picked out as a teenager. The room felt suffocating now, a perfect symbol of how my family still saw me frozen as the responsible, accommodating teenager rather than the accomplished professional adult I'd become. My hands were shaking as I grabbed my phone and texted my best friend Rachel. "Need to talk ASAP, family emergency." Rachel and I had been friends since college, and she'd witnessed my family dynamics firsthand during a disastrous Thanksgiving 5 years ago. She called me immediately. "What happened?" she asked when I picked up. "Are your parents okay?" "They're fine," I whispered, conscious of keeping my voice down. Everyone's physically fine, but I just overheard my entire family planning to use me as the designated childcare for all 9 kids during Christmas while they have an adults-only party. Those assholes, Rachel said bluntly. Please tell me you're not going along with it this time. I don't think I can, I admitted. It wasn't just the plan itself, it was how they talked about me, like I'm not even a person with feelings or plans of my own. Hyler literally said I have no life anyway. That's rich coming from someone who hasn't had a date night without asking you to babysit in 5 years, Rachel snorted. So what are you going to do? Confront them, I sighed, running a hand through my hair. Confrontation never works with them. They'll either deny everything, tell me I'm overreacting, or guilt-trip me about family obligations. By the end of it, I'll somehow be apologizing to them. So what's the alternative? Rachel asked. Suffer through another horrible Christmas. The question hung in the air as I gazed out the window at the snow-covered yard. In the distance, I could see neighbors decorating their homes, preparing for joyful holiday gatherings. Why didn't I deserve the same? What if I just wasn't here? I said slowly, the plan forming as I spoke. What if I left before they could implement Operation Amber Childcare? Now we're talking, Rachel's voice perked up. Come to New York, you can stay with me and Marcus. We're having a small dinner with friends. I appreciated the offer, but something else was taking shape in my mind. Thanks, but I think I need something different this year. Something just for me. Like what? Remember that article you sent me last month about the Winterberry Inn in Vermont? I asked, already opening my laptop to search for it. The historic place with the amazing Christmas package. The one with the gourmet 7-course Christmas dinner and the horse-drawn sleigh rides. That place looked amazing, Rachel replied. But won't it be booked solid? It's only 3 days until Christmas. Let me check, I said, navigating to the inn's website. Worst case scenario, I book a nice hotel somewhere and order room service. To my surprise and delight, the Winterberry Inn actually had a cancellation. A deluxe suite with a fireplace and mountain view was available for Christmas Eve through the 26th. The package included Christmas Eve dinner, Christmas Day brunch and dinner, and various holiday activities. The price was steep, especially after spending so much on gifts for the family that would now go ungiven, but my recent bonus made it possible. They have a room, I told Rachel, excitement building in my voice. A beautiful suite. Book it, Rachel said immediately. Book it before someone else grabs it. My finger hovered over the reserve now button. Am I being petty? Abandoning my family at Christmas? Amber, listen to me, Rachel's voice turned serious. They were planning to abandon you at Christmas with 9 children while they partied upstairs. You're not being petty, you're practicing self-preservation. She was right. With newfound determination, I clicked the button and completed the reservation. As the confirmation email arrived in my inbox, a weight lifted from my shoulders. For once, I was choosing myself. Next, I emailed my boss, Lauren, requesting 1 additional day off to extend my holiday break. She responded almost immediately. After the year you've had, you deserve an extra day. Enjoy your holiday, and don't think about work until the new year. With my accommodation secured and my time off approved, I began planning the logistics. I would need to leave early before anyone else was awake to avoid confrontation and guilt trips. The inn was about a 3-hour drive from my parents' house, which meant leaving around 5 a.m. to arrive in time for the Christmas Eve activities that began at noon. I quietly repacked my suitcase, adding a few dressier items for the formal Christmas dinner at the inn. From my car, I retrieved the gifts I had brought for myself from colleagues and friends, which I had planned to open along with family presents. They would now be my Christmas morning celebration at the inn. As I organized my escape, I could hear my family downstairs, the clink of glasses, bursts of laughter, children squealing. They were carrying on with their evening, completely unaware that their carefully orchestrated plan was about to fall apart. I considered what to tell them. A note seemed cowardly, but a face-to-face conversation would likely derail my plan. After careful thought, I composed a brief, clear letter explaining that I had made other arrangements for Christmas and would not be available for childcare. I didn't mention that I had overheard their plan that would only lead to denials and drama. Instead, I kept it simple and direct, wishing them a Merry Christmas and stating that I needed some time to myself this holiday. With everything prepared, I set my alarm for 4:30 a.m. and tried to sleep. Despite the anxiety about the confrontation that would inevitably follow, I felt something I hadn't experienced in relation to family holidays in years: excitement. For the first time in my adult life, I was looking forward to Christmas. My alarm vibrated silently under my pillow at 4:30 a.m. I woke instantly, heart pounding with a mixture of anxiety and anticipation. The house was completely silent, even the early rising children wouldn't be up for hours on a holiday. I moved with practiced quiet, having snuck around this creaky old house since adolescence. The bathroom light stayed off as I brushed my teeth and washed my face by the dim glow of my phone flashlight. I dressed warmly in jeans, boots, and layers topped with a thick sweater. Vermont would be even colder than Connecticut. My suitcase wheels were wrapped in socks to muffle their sound on the hardwood floors as I made my way downstairs. The Christmas tree in the living room cast colorful shadows across the walls, and presents were piled high beneath it. I had wrapped and labeled all of mine yesterday, expensive, thoughtful gifts that would be discovered without their giver present. For a moment, standing in the glow of the tree my father had painstakingly decorated, doubt crept in. Was I overreacting? Was I ruining Christmas for everyone? Then I remembered Jessica's calculating tone as she outlined Operation Amber Childcare, Tyler's dismissive comment about my lack of a life, and Madison's strategic plan to establish precedent with her twins. I remembered years of missing Christmas dinners, opening my gifts hours after everyone else because I was handling a child crisis, and the adult party they'd plan without me. My resolve strengthened. I placed my letter prominently on the kitchen table, weighed down by the snowman salt shaker. The note was straightforward. Dear family, I've decided to spend Christmas differently this year. I've made arrangements to be away through December 26th and will not be available for any childcare during the holidays. I hope you all have a wonderful Christmas, and I'll be in touch after the holiday. Love, Amber. No accusations, no explanations, just clear boundaries. I slipped out through the side door that didn't chime when opened and carried my suitcase through the fresh snow to where my car was parked on the street. The neighborhood was silent and beautiful, houses outlined with twinkling lights against the dark morning sky. As I warmed up the engine, I turned off notifications from my family's group chat. They could still call or text directly in case of a genuine emergency, but I wouldn't be subjected to the barrage of guilt and anger that would inevitably flood the family thread. The drive was peaceful at first. I played my favorite Christmas playlist, the one I never got to listen to during family gatherings because the children preferred cartoon Christmas songs on repeat. I stopped at an all-night diner about an hour into the journey for coffee and pancakes, enjoying a quiet breakfast while watching the sky lighten with dawn. By 7:30 a.m., my phone began to buzz with incoming texts. I glanced at the notifications without opening the messages. Mom, Amber, what is this note? Call me immediately. Jessica, very funny, get back here, the kids are asking for you. Tyler, not cool sis, we had plans. I silenced the phone completely and focused on the road ahead. As I crossed into Massachusetts and then Vermont, the landscape became increasingly picturesque. Snow-covered mountains appeared on the horizon, and quaint New England towns decorated for Christmas passed by my windows. With each mile, the weight on my shoulders lightened. The Winterberry Inn exceeded all expectations. Built in 1878, the Victorian mansion sat on 20 acres of woodland, now blanketed in pristine snow. Holiday decorations adorn every surface, garlands wrapped around banisters, wreaths hung on doors, and a magnificent 20-foot Christmas tree dominated the main hall. The scent of pine, cinnamon, and wood smoke created an atmosphere of festive luxury. Welcome to Winterberry Inn, Miss Michelle, the innkeeper greeted me warmly. Frank and Alina Barnes were a couple in their 60s who had restored the historic property 15 years ago. We're delighted you could join us for Christmas. Thank you for accommodating my last-minute reservation, I replied, taking in the beautiful surroundings. Sometimes the best Christmas gifts are unexpected, Alina said with a kind smile. We had a cancellation yesterday from a family whose flight to Europe was moved up. Their loss is your gain. Frank carried my suitcase as Alina showed me to my suite on the second floor. The room was straight out of a Christmas movie, a 4-poster bed with luxurious linens, a sitting area with a private fireplace already lit, and windows overlooking the snow-covered Vermont mountains. A small decorated tree stood in the corner, and a welcome basket containing local Vermont treats and a bottle of champagne waited on the coffee table. Dinner is served at 7 in the main dining room, Alina explained. But this afternoon we have holiday cookie decorating in the conservatory at 2, followed by mulled wine by the fire at 4. The snow is perfect for sledding on the hill behind the property if you're feeling adventurous. After they left, I stood in the center of the beautiful room, overwhelmed by the sudden shift in my Christmas experience. Instead of preparing for hours of childcare chaos in a basement playroom, I was in a luxury suite with nothing to do but enjoy myself. I unpacked my clothes, hanging them carefully in the antique wardrobe. Then I ran a hot bath in the clawfoot tub, adding the lavender bath salts provided by the inn. As I soaked in the fragrant water, I finally checked my phone. The missed calls had climbed to 15, and texts numbered in the 30s. I skimmed them quickly, noting the progression from confusion to anger to panic as my family realized their childcare plan had fallen through. No one had yet expressed concern for my well-being or asked if I was okay, just variations of, "How could you do this to us? And what are we supposed to do now?" Only one message stood out. Tyler had written, "Heard what we said yesterday, didn't you? Can't blame you for leaving. They're all freaking out about the kids. Maybe they'll appreciate you more now." At least one person understood. I sent him a brief response. "Yes, I heard everything. Needed to do this for myself. I'm safe and well." Then I turned off the phone completely, ordered lunch from room service, and settled by the fire with a book I'd been wanting to read for months. For the first time in years, I was experiencing Christmas on my own terms. After a delightful afternoon of holiday activities with other guests at the inn decorating gingerbread houses and taking a guided nature walk through the snowy woods, I returned to my room feeling refreshed. The peaceful atmosphere of the Winterberry Inn was a stark contrast to what would have been happening at my parents' house. Curiosity finally got the better of me around 6 p.m., just before I needed to dress for dinner. I turned my phone back on and watched as it vibrated continuously for nearly 2 minutes, notifications flooding the screen. The final count was staggering: 37 missed calls, 52 text messages, and 6 voicemails. I started with the voicemails, putting the phone on speaker as I selected earrings to match my dress for dinner. My mother's voice came first, initially controlled but clearly agitated. "Amber, this is completely unacceptable. Whatever point you're trying to make, you're ruining Christmas for everyone, especially the children. Call me back immediately." The second voicemail, also from my mother but recorded 2 hours later, had a distinctly different tone. "Honey, we're worried about you. This isn't like you to just disappear. If you're upset about something, we can talk about it. Please just let us know you're safe." Her voice cracked slightly, suggesting genuine concern had finally broken through the anger. My father's message was surprisingly reflective. "Amber, it's Dad. I've been thinking about your note, and I have a feeling we might have taken advantage of your good nature one too many times. The kids are disappointed, of course, but they'll be fine. Just let us know you're okay, and we'll talk when you're ready." Jessica left 2 voicemails, the first a blistering tirade about selfishness and ruined holidays that I stopped halfway through, and the second a tearful plea about how her children were heartbroken that their favorite aunt was missing Christmas. The final message was from Madison. "I'm sorry if we made you feel unappreciated. Whatever you need, take the time. Just please text someone that you're alive and well. We've been calling hotels in the area but no one's seen you." That last bit made me pause. They were calling hotels looking for me. Perhaps I had underestimated their concern. Next, I scanned the text messages. Most were variations on the voicemail's anger, guilt, concern, but some revealed fascinating insights into how my family was coping with my absence. "Jessica, had to cancel the Christmas Eve party. Can't manage all the kids without you, hope you're happy." Tyler, respect for the power move, sis. Mom and Dad have us all on rotation for childcare now. Jessica is having a meltdown about missing her hair appointment because she has to wash Madison's twins. Madison, I'll do anything to make this right. Free babysitting for a year, whenever you need it. I didn't realize how much we were asking of you until I had to wash all the kids myself for 3 hours today. There were several messages from my mother updating me on revised Christmas plans. Apparently, they had created an emergency childcare schedule that required each parent to take shifts washing their own children plus helping with others. The adults-only party was indeed cancelled, and the fancy dinner my mother had planned was simplified to accommodate the children being present. Most interesting was a message that appeared to be sent to me by mistake, a screenshot from the family group chat that I had muted. "Jessica, this is a disaster. Mom and Dad are making us wash all the children. We need to find Amber and apologize so she'll come back and take over. Madison, I'm exhausted after just one morning. How does she do this every holiday? Tyler, maybe we should have appreciated her more instead of planning to dump 9 kids on her without even asking." Mom, less finger-pointing, more problem-solving. We all took Amber for granted, and now we're paying the price. The revelation that they were experiencing firsthand what they had planned to inflict on me brought a certain satisfaction, but I took no joy in ruining their Christmas. That had never been my intention. I simply wanted to create a boundary and prioritize my own well-being for once. After careful consideration, I composed a single message addressed to the entire family. I'm safe and well, staying at a lovely inn for Christmas. I overheard the Operation Amber Childcare planning session and realized I needed to make a change in how I experience holidays with family. I'm not angry, just taking necessary space to reflect on what kind of relationship will be healthy for all of us moving forward. I love you all and the children dearly. Merry Christmas. I pressed send, then immediately switched the phone to Do Not Disturb mode. I didn't want the inevitable flood of responses to distract from my evening. Dressed in a deep green velvet dress I'd originally bought for Christmas dinner with my family, I made my way downstairs to the inn's dining room. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over tables dressed in white linens and decorated with pine branches, red berries, and glowing candles. A string quartet played Christmas carols in the corner, and the scent of roasting chestnuts and mulled wine filled the air. As the maitre d' showed me to my table, I caught my reflection in a gilded mirror. For the first time in years, I looked relaxed and happy during the holiday season. There was no tension in my shoulders, no anxiety in my eyes. I had made the right choice. I turned my focus to the beautiful Christmas Eve ahead of me, determined to be fully present for this new experience. My family would process their feelings, the children would survive without their aunt for one Christmas, and perhaps, just perhaps, something healthier might emerge from this disruption of our dysfunctional pattern. The Christmas Eve dinner at Winterberry Inn exceeded all expectations. The 7-course meal featured local Vermont specialties, from maple glazed duck to apple cider sorbet. I was seated at a table with 3 other solo travelers, an arrangement that initially seemed awkward but quickly became comfortable as we shared our various reasons for spending Christmas away from family. Margaret, a silver-haired professor in her 60s, was taking a year of family holidays off after the death of her husband. Too many memories in the old traditions, she explained. Next year I'll be ready to return, but this year I needed something completely different. Keith and Brenda were a middle-aged couple whose children had decided to spend Christmas with their respective in-laws. Empty nest freedom, Keith called it with a wink. The 4th person at our table immediately caught my attention. Daniel Taylor was about my age, with kind eyes and an easy smile. He explained that he was divorced with 2 children who were spending Christmas with their mother and her new husband in Florida. It was my ex-wife's turn for Christmas, he said, so I decided to treat myself instead of sitting at home alone. As we enjoyed the delicious food and free-flowing wine, our conversation moved from polite small talk to genuine connection. When I briefly mentioned my escape from family childcare obligations, Daniel laughed. 9 kids, that's not babysitting, that's running a daycare center, he said. Good for you for setting a boundary. After dinner, most guests gathered in the Great Hall, where Frank and Alina had organized traditional Christmas Eve activities. We sang carols around the piano, with Alina's surprisingly powerful soprano leading the group. Afterward, Frank read A Visit from St. Nicholas by the massive stone fireplace, his theatrical delivery delighting both children and adults. The innkeepers had arranged for a local sleigh to take guests on rides through the snowy countryside. Daniel and I ended up sharing a sleigh, wrapped in warm blankets as the horses' bells jingled through the cold night air. Under a canopy of stars, with Christmas lights twinkling from distant farmhouses, I felt a peacefulness I hadn't experienced during the holidays since childhood. This is so much better than referee duty, I said, washing my breath cloud in the frosty air. Referee duty, Daniel asked. What I call it when my nieces and nephews inevitably start fighting and I have to separate them, I explain. Usually happens about an hour after they've all been dumped with me. Daniel nodded in understanding. My sister tries that with me sometimes. Uncle Daniel wouldn't mind washing the kids while we go out. I've had to get pretty firm about it. How do you do that without coming across as the villain who doesn't love the kids? I asked. I make it clear that it's not about the kids, I love them dearly. It's about respecting my time and plans, he said. Also, I never agree to wash all 5 cousins together. That's just asking for disaster. His practical approach to setting boundaries with family struck me as both reasonable and achievable. Unlike my dramatic escape plan, his method allowed for both self-respect and continued family relationships. When we returned to the inn, rosy-cheeked from the cold, most guests retired to their rooms. Daniel and I lingered by the fire, exchanging stories about our careers. He was an architect specializing in sustainable design and childhoods until well after midnight. I should get some sleep, I finally said. If Santa catches me awake, I might not get any presents. Daniel laughed. It was really nice meeting you, Amber. Would you like to join me for Christmas dinner tomorrow? The dining room hostess mentioned they're seating people in the same groups. I'd like that, I replied with a smile. Christmas morning dawned with soft, fresh snow falling outside my window. For the first time in years, I woke naturally, without children jumping on my bed or family members knocking on my door with some urgent childcare need. I stretched luxuriously in the comfortable bed, savoring the quiet. A gentle knock at the door announced room service breakfast in bed that I'd ordered the night before. Fresh coffee, Vermont cheddar omelet, homemade cinnamon rolls, and a mimosa made with local apple cider instead of orange juice. As I enjoy my peaceful breakfast, I open the small gifts I'd brought: a beautiful fountain pen from my assistant Lauren, artisanal chocolates from my team at work, and a cashmere scarf Rachel had sent. Simple pleasures, but they felt special in this setting. To my surprise, there was also a gift basket from Frank and Alina waiting outside my door. The card read, "For your courage in setting boundaries this Christmas. May the new year bring you joy and healthy relationships. Your Winterberry family." The basket contained Vermont maple products, locally made candles, and a small ornament in the shape of the inn. The thoughtfulness from people who barely knew me brought unexpected tears to my eyes. Later that morning, I joined other guests for a guided snowshoe hike on the inn's property. The pristine snow, the evergreen trees heavy with white, and the peaceful silence of the forest created a Christmas card setting come to life. Daniel and I naturally paired up, helping each other navigate the steeper sections of the trail. "Have you checked in with your family today?" he asked as we paused to catch our breath at a scenic overlook. "Not yet," I admitted. "I sent them a message last night letting them know I was safe, but I've kept my phone off since then." "Probably wise," he nodded. "Give everyone time to process." Rather than calling my family, I made a brief video call to Rachel instead. She was preparing Christmas dinner with her boyfriend Marcus in their New York apartment, and they both cheered when they saw the snowy Vermont scenery behind me. "You look happy," Rachel observed, relaxed in a way I haven't seen in forever. "I am," I confirm. "It's strange to say, but this is the best Christmas I've had in years." After the hike and a light lunch, I joined a small group of guests for cookie decorating in the conservatory. The glass-enclosed space offered panoramic views of the snowy landscape while staying warm and cozy. Children from other guest families participated, and I found myself enjoying their company on my terms, helping a little girl, named Zoe, perfect her snowman cookie, laughing with twin boys who got more frosting on themselves than on their cookie. The Christmas dinner that evening was even more elaborate than the previous night's meal. The dining room was transformed with additional decorations: crystal snowflakes hanging from the ceiling, centerpieces with glowing candles, and each place setting featuring a small gift-wrapped box containing a handcrafted ornament. As promised, Daniel was seated at my table, along with a different group of guests who were equally friendly. Throughout the meal, we exchanged stories, shared traditions, and enjoyed the festive atmosphere. There was something liberating about celebrating with strangers: no history, no expectations, no predetermined roles to fill. After dinner, many guests gathered in the great room for more carols and mulled wine. Daniel and I found a quiet corner near a window overlooking the moonlit snow. "Does your family know where you are?" I asked him. He nodded. "My parents were a bit disappointed, but they understood. My ex-wife actually thanked me for not making the kids feel guilty about being with her for Christmas." "That's very mature of you both," I observed. "Divorce taught me a lot about boundaries," he said thoughtfully. "When a relationship completely falls apart, you have to rebuild everything from scratch, including how you communicate and what you're willing to accept from others." His words resonated deeply. Perhaps my relationship with my family needed a similar rebuilding, not a complete break, but a thoughtful reconstruction based on mutual respect rather than outdated patterns. As the evening wound down, guests began drifting to their rooms, tired but content from the day's festivities. Daniel walked me to my door, where we exchanged phone numbers with promises to stay in touch after leaving the inn. Alone in my room, I finally turned my phone back on, prepared for another barrage of messages. There were indeed many texts and missed calls, but the tone had shifted significantly. Most expressed concern rather than anger, understanding rather than accusation. My father had sent a particularly thoughtful message acknowledging years of taking advantage of my good nature and promising things would be different going forward. For the first time, I felt hopeful about the possibility of a healthier dynamic with my family. It had taken a dramatic step on my part, but perhaps it was the disruption we all needed to create change. I fell asleep that night with the peaceful certainty that whether I was with family or on my own, I would never again experience Christmas as someone else's convenience. I had redefined the holiday for myself, and in doing so, possibly for my family as well. The day after Christmas brought clear blue skies and dazzling sunshine that made the snow-covered landscape sparkle like diamonds. After a leisurely breakfast in the inn's dining room, I packed my belongings with mixed emotions. The peaceful sanctuary of Winterberry Inn had given me exactly what I needed: space to breathe, time to reflect, and a fresh perspective on family dynamics. Yet I knew that eventually, I needed to face my family. Before leaving, I exchanged contact information with Daniel, promising to meet for coffee when we were both back in our regular lives. Frank and Alina hugged me goodbye at the front desk. "You're welcome back anytime," Alina said warmly, "but I hope next Christmas finds you surrounded by family who respects your boundary." "That's my hope too," I replied. Instead of driving straight back to my parents' house, I made a detour to a charming village with boutique shops. There, I purchased thoughtful gifts for my nieces and nephews, not the expensive presents I'd originally wrapped and left under my parents' tree, but items chosen with each child's personality in mind. A journal for introspective Emma, a build-your-own robot kit for curious Noah, a butterfly garden kit for nurturing Lily. For the younger children, I selected picture books, soft stuffed animals, and creative toys that encouraged imagination rather than made noise, a consideration their parents would surely appreciate. These weren't peace offerings or apologies, they were genuine expressions of love for the children, separate from the issues I had with their parent. It was late afternoon by the time I pulled into my parents' driveway. The Christmas decorations still twinkled in the windows, but the atmosphere felt different from when I'd left. Taking a deep breath, I gathered the gift bags and approached the front door. My mother answered before I could knock, suggesting she'd been washing for my arrival. Her expression was a complex mixture of relief, residual anger, and uncertainty. "You're back," she said simply, holding the door open wide. The house was surprisingly quiet as I stepped inside. No running children, no blaring holiday music or television. My father appeared from the living room, glasses perched on his nose and a book in hand. "Amber," he said, setting his book aside, "we're glad you're safe." The formal reception wasn't what I'd expected. Where was the guilt trip? The emotional manipulation? The demands for explanations? "Where is everyone?" I asked, setting down the gift bags. "Your siblings took the children home this morning," my mother explained. We thought it would be good to talk with you without distractions." I nodded, appreciating the thoughtfulness of this approach. "I'd like that." We gathered in the kitchen, the very room where I'd overheard their plans 3 days earlier. My mother made tea, a ritual she'd performed during serious family discussions throughout my childhood. "We owe you an apology," my father began once we were all seated. "What you overheard was inexcusable." So they knew exactly why I'd left. Someone, probably Tyler, had filled them in. "It wasn't just what you planned for this Christmas," I said carefully. "It's been a pattern for years. I love spending time with my nieces and nephews, but being expected to care for all of them simultaneously, without even being asked, isn't fair." "You're right," my mother said, surprising me with her direct acknowledgement. "We've taken advantage of your good nature for too long. It was easy to fall into the pattern of Amber will handle it because you always did, without complaint." "I should have complained," I admitted. "I should have set boundaries years ago instead of letting resentment build until I felt I had to run away." "Why didn't you?" my father asked, genuinely curious. I considered the question. I guess I was afraid of being seen as the difficult one, the selfish one who doesn't care about family. I wanted your approval and acceptance more than I wanted to stand up for myself. My mother reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "You have always had our acceptance, Amber, and you deserve our respect too." Christmas was actually quite educational for everyone, my father added with a wry smile. Jessica had a complete meltdown by noon on Christmas Day trying to manage all the children. Madison called in tears saying she had no idea how you handled multiple children of different ages so calmly. I couldn't help but laugh at the image. It takes practice. Practice you shouldn't have had to get without choosing it, my mother said firmly. We've already had a family meeting about expectations going forward. Everyone will be responsible primarily for their own children, with reasonable requests for help requests, not assumption. The conversation continued as we discussed how to rebuild our relationship on healthier terms. There was no dramatic confrontation, no shouting or tears, just honest communication between adults. It wasn't perfect. There were moments of defensiveness and old patterns trying to reassert themselves, but we consistently returned to the core issue: respect for each person's time, choices, and boundary. Later that evening, Madison stopped by with her children. The twins, Harper and Logan, ran to me with excited hugs, while baby Sophia reached out from Madison's arm. "Auntie Amber, we missed you at Christmas," Harper exclaimed. "I missed you too, sweetie," I said honestly. "But sometimes adults need special time just for themselves, just like you sometimes need time to play by yourself, right?" She nodded sagely, accepting this explanation without question. Madison and I sat in the living room while the twins played with their new toys and Sophie dozed in my arms. My youngest sister looked exhausted, hair hastily pulled back, dark circles under her eyes. "I had no idea," she said quietly. 9 kids for 2 days. I couldn't even handle my 3 for the whole day without help. Tyler and Jessica both had to take shifts with me. "It's a lot," I agreed, "too much to expect from any one person." "I'm sorry," she said, meeting my eyes directly. "I really admire you for what you did. It took courage to walk away like that." "It took desperation," I corrected her. "Courage would have been setting proper boundaries years ago instead of letting it get to this point." We talked about her struggles as a young mother, my career aspirations, and how we could build a stronger sister relationship based on mutual support rather than one-sided expectations. For the first time in years, I felt like Madison was seeing me as a complete person, not just a convenient childcare provider. Over the next few days, I had similar conversations with Jessica and Tyler. Jessica was the most resistant to change, defending her actions and attempting to minimize what they'd planned. But even she eventually acknowledged that treating me as the default babysitter had been unfair. "I guess I've been jealous of your freedom," she admitted reluctantly. "My life revolves entirely around the kids and home. Sometimes it feels like you got all the adventures while I got all the responsibility." "We both made our choices," I pointed out. "And I'm happy to help with the kids sometimes, just not all of them at once, and not without being asked first." Tyler, true to his text message, was supportive from the start. "About time you stood up for yourself," he said when we had a moment alone. "Sorry I was part of the problem." By New Year's Eve, I was back in my apartment in Boston, preparing for a small gathering with friends including Daniel, who had called as promised and lived only 30 minutes away. Rachel and Marcus were driving up from New York to join us. As I arranged appetizers and chilled champagne, my phone buzzed with a new message in the family group chat. My mother had sent a photo of all of us from last summer, before the holiday planning had begun. Her message read, "Looking forward to creating new family traditions in the new year, ones that respect everyone's needs and contributions. Amber, thank you for the wake-up call we needed. Love you all." I smiled and set my phone aside, turning my attention to my friends arriving for the celebration. The family issues weren't completely resolved. Years of patterns wouldn't change overnight, what we had made a beginning. For the first time, I felt optimistic about future family gatherings. As the clock neared midnight and we prepared to toast the new year, I caught Daniel's eye across the room. He smiled warmly, raising his glass slightly in my direction. Rachel nudged me and whispered, "See what happens when you prioritize yourself. Good things come your way." She was right. By setting boundaries and respecting my own needs, I had created space for healthier relationships and new possibilities. The Christmas escape hadn't been about running away from my family, it had been about running toward a better version of myself and, ultimately, a better version of my family connection. When midnight struck and celebrations erupted around me, I made a silent resolution. No more doormat, no more silent resentment, no more sacrificing my happiness for others' convenience. This year would be about balance, giving generously but not depleting myself, loving my family while honoring my own needs. If you've ever struggled with family expectations or found yourself constantly giving until there's nothing left, I hope my story inspires you to make a change. Setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's necessary for healthy relationships. Have you ever had to take a dramatic step to change a family dynamic? Share your experience in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe if this story resonated with you, and hit the notification bell to see more stories about family dynamics, personal growth, and finding your voice. Thank you for watching, and may your new year be filled with balanced relationships and respected boundaries.